Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. The Canadian Coast Guard ship, the Louis Saint Laurent, was launched in 1996. It is the Canadian Coast Guard's heavy icebreaker, and for nearly 60 years, it's kept shipping lanes open, supported Arctic science, and resupplied northern communities. It's well past the age at which most icebreakers retire, and yet it stays in service through repeated life extensions, refits, because its replacement is not ready yet. And that ship on its own sums up the entire situation. Canada has one of the largest icebreaker fleets in the world, but most of it is decades old. We've tried to build a heavy icebreaker before, and those attempts were either cancelled, delayed, or just took way longer than expected. But things are changing. Canada now has a plan for a massive buildup of its icebreaker fleet. And so in this video, we'll cover what Canada operates today, why the fleet needs replacing, what's being built to replace it, how the ships are being built, and how Canada's fleet compares to the rest of the world. So let's start with the fleet today. There are roughly 3 tiers of icebreaking capability with the Canadian Coast Guard. It goes from light to heavy. Now, officially and formally, the Canadian Coast Guard doesn't use a light icebreaker as an actual term, but these vessels do take on lighter icebreaking duties. So the tiers are light, medium, and heavy. So let's start with light icebreaking. This is handled by more than 10 multitask vessels, split between high endurance and medium endurance. They break ice as one of their main roles, but also tend to navigation aids and other work such as search and rescue and scientific missions. They usually handle the thinner seasonal ice in harbors, rivers, and southern waters. They are the light end of the fleet. Next, we'll move on to the medium icebreakers. Now, this is an official term with the Canadian Coast Guard. There are 7 of these vessels, and they form the workhorse of the Canadian Coast Guard's icebreaking fleet. Many of these vessels date back to the 1970s and early 1980s, and some were recently acquired interim vessels that were converted from commercial ships, such as the Molly Cool and the Jean Goodwill. These medium ships do most of the day-to-day work, escorting through the Gulf of St. Lawrence, search and rescue, and summer operations in the Arctic. Next come the heavy icebreakers. The heavy icebreakers are built for the hardest ice and for sustained operations across 2 seasons, and Canada has 2 of them. The Terry Fox was built in the 1980s for offshore oil industries, and later was acquired by the Canadian Coast Guard. The Louis Saint Laurent launched in 1996, and it is the flagship of the fleet. These 2 ships escort heavy commercial traffic through the heaviest ice, run ice reconnaissance missions, scientific surveys, and keep routes open in the high Arctic. They carry the top end of the fleet's ice work and are critical to the Canadian Coast Guard's long endurance missions in the high Arctic. Across all 3 of these types, the main roles are the same: escort so trade and resupply move, support scientific understanding of Canada's sovereign waters, resupply northern communities, and maintain a presence. Now, you probably heard me mention that most of these ships are from the 1970s or the 1980s. And Canada's flagship, the Louis Saint Laurent, it was built in 1966. So Canada's flagship is around 60 years old, and the medium fleet is over 40. Life extensions and refits keep the ships running, but each retrofit costs money and takes the ship out of service. And older hulls have their limits. Keeping the flagships in service now is a repeated exercise rather than a one-time fix. Next is demand. As the Arctic ice retreats, there's more shipping, more resource interest, and even more tourism in the northern waters. That means there's more demand for icebreaking, for search and rescue. All at the same time, the fleet's capacity is shrinking because ships are getting older and they're spending more time in repair. Now, the last piece is capability. None of Canada's current ships are heavy polar icebreakers, and they weren't built for independent operation in the thickest multi-year ice. The fleet can work seasonal and moderate ice, but it doesn't have that true high-end, high Arctic heavy capability that can operate on its own throughout the entire year. And so that's a major capability gap. But the government has known about this gap for a long time. A dedicated heavy polar icebreaker was proposed in the 80s, and then again in the 2000s, but cost and complexity impacted the project. And so as Canada starts to talk more about its Arctic sovereignty, a replacement for these vessels becomes critical. And so next we're talking about the replacements. The replacement of these vessels runs through the National Shipbuilding Strategy. Under this strategy, Canada is adding 26 new hulls across the fleet. There are 4 programs and they line up from light to heavy. First, 2 ice-capable Arctic patrol vessels are being built for the Coast Guard. And these vessels build off the Harry DeWolf class that's been delivered to the Royal Canadian Navy. Next, a fleet of 16 multi-purpose icebreakers are being built. These will make up the core of the everyday fleet for southern icebreaking, rescue, and moderate ice conditions. Third, a class of 6 program icebreakers. These will be medium ships built from Davie to replace the aging medium icebreaking fleet. And fourth, the 2 polar icebreakers. These are the heavy ships and the first heavy icebreakers built in Canada in over 60 years. And so this really makes up one of the most comprehensive shipbuilding plans that the Canadian government has. Icebreaking fleet at every level is being addressed, and on top of that, it's being expanded. We're moving from 20 vessels to 26. Now, 2 of the programs make up the bulk of the renewal number. First, the multi-purpose icebreakers are 16 ships planned across 3 different build flights. They will handle southern icebreaking, search and rescue, and moderate Arctic ice. Now, as the name implies, these are multi-purpose ships, and so you'll be seeing them doing a lot of work beyond just ice control. Now, we don't have a confirmed construction start date yet, but it looks to be somewhere around 2027. The program icebreakers are 6 medium ships from Davie. They are direct replacements for the aging medium and light icebreakers, and dedicated to the role to have an extra bit of capability for harsher ice and give the Canadian Coast Guard more flexibility to respond when the ice is worse than usual. Now, neither of these programs are built for the highest Arctic ice and for those long endurance, multi-season ice missions. That is the job of the 2 polar icebreakers. Now, the polar icebreaker project is 2 heavy ships, split between 2 shipyards on both coasts. And we'll start with the smaller one first, the Canadian Coast Guard ship Arpatuk. The Arpatuk is built by Chantier Davie with construction split between Davie's yard in Quebec and Davie's yard in Helsinki in Finland. It's based on Davie's existing Polarmax design, just slightly shortened. It's just over 138 meters long, displaces over 23,000 tons, and it's being built to a Polar Class 2 ice standard. Now, there's a couple of interesting things about this ship, but the one that sticks out most is the fact that it's being built at 2 different shipyards. Now, the National Shipbuilding Strategy was built to spur domestic shipbuilding, but for this particular ship, some work is being completed in Helsinki in Finland, and those components are being shipped over to Quebec, where a final assembly is taking place. But in order to meet the aggressive delivery timelines that the Government of Canada had, Davie had to leverage its existing shipyards in Finland to provide some of those components and accelerate its production. Now, along with that, the delivery schedule for this ship is a lot quicker than the other one, and so the Canadian Coast Guard can expect to have this ship by 2030. Now, in terms of capability, this ship will be able to accommodate over 100 people. It'll have a helicopter deck and a hangar capable of sustaining 2 helicopters. It will have laboratories, the ability to respond to emergencies in the north, and the ability to transport cargo. And with all this put together, the entire ship is costing taxpayers around $3.26 billion. Now, the next one is the big one, the Canadian Coast Guard ship Imnarjuak. It's being built by Seaspan at their North Vancouver yard, and it's the larger of the 2 ships. It's over 158 meters long, with a displacement around 26,000 tons, and has a Polar Class rating of 2. A quick note on that rating. There's an international Polar Class system that runs from 1 to 7. 1 is for year-round operations in all polar waters, including the thickest multi-year ice. Polar Class 2 is just one step below that. And this would make these two ships true heavy polar icebreakers, designed for independent operations in multi-year Arctic ice. And that's a level of capability that Canada does not have right now in its current fleet. Now, the total contract to Seaspan was $4.27 billion, of which around 3.15 was for construction. And its delivery is expected somewhere around 2032. Now, in terms of capabilities, it matches similarly to the ship being built by Davy. It can accommodate roughly 100 people, has space for 2 helicopters, but in terms of ice-breaking capability, it pulls out slightly ahead. The Imnariwik is able to break roughly 2 feet more ice than its Davy counterpart. And so in terms of ice-breaking capability, this ship matches very closely to its Russian counterparts operating the Russian Arctic. Alright, now let's look at Canada's overall icebreaker picture. So taken all together, here's Canada's overall Arctic fleet picture across the Coast Guard and the Navy, including some proposed ships that may be coming in the future. So we'll start with the multi-purpose icebreakers for the Coast Guard. There's 16 of them, and they'll form the backbone of the Canadian icebreaking fleet. Next, we have potentially up to 6 program icebreakers, and these will be the workhorses. Next, we have the 2 polar icebreakers that I just mentioned, and then the 2 Arctic patrol ships that are being built by Irving Shipyards in Halifax. And that rounds out the Canadian Coast Guard's overall icebreaking picture. Now, on top of this, the Navy does have icebreakers as well now. There's 6 of them called the Harry DeWolf class. And as we discussed in a video earlier on this channel, the Navy is potentially looking at 2 Arctic mobile bases, which would be an amphibious Arctic ship, which is not confirmed yet, but would provide tremendous capability to the government of Canada up in the Arctic. Now, something that often comes up in discussions around Canada's icebreaking fleet is the comparison with Russia. Russia operates by far the largest fleet, with about 42 total icebreakers. Almost all of them are civilian run, split between diesel-powered and nuclear-powered. At this point, Russia is the only country that builds and runs nuclear icebreakers. Now, the other major players are much smaller. The United States, for example, has a new heavy icebreaker program, but it's years behind schedule. Finland operates some icebreakers, but they're mainly in the Baltic area. And China now operates a small number of polar icebreakers with a growing fleet. Now, it is worth putting the Russia comparison in perspective. Canada operates 20 icebreakers today, and the renewal brings the Coast Guard to around 26. Counting the Navy's ice-capable Arctic patrol ships, Canada reaches around 32, compared to Russia's 42. Now, the raw numbers are only part of the picture. One of the big reasons why Russia has so many icebreakers is economic. The Russian Arctic produces around 7.5% of the country's GDP and around 11% of its exports. And so in that context, icebreakers are critical to the Russian economy. Now, Canada's situation is a little bit different. If you look at a map of Canada, the Arctic archipelago really sticks out. It really looks like a maze, a bunch of narrow shallow channels that are going everywhere. And what really happens is that often throughout the year, this area is choked with multi-year ice, pushed down from the high Arctic. And overall, Canada's Arctic carries much less commercial traffic. At this moment in time, Canada's need for new icebreakers is really driven by sovereignty, presence, search and rescue, community resupply, but it's not really a busy trade route like it is for Russia. And so for Canada, the big focus really is just capability and presence. So what's next? Well, the near-term timeline is fairly straightforward. Both polar hulls are now in construction. We'll see first delivery in 2030, and then the next one will come in 2032. And at the same time, you'll see renewal of the wider fleet, as we mentioned. I'd also look for some timelines on the program icebreakers and the multipurpose icebreakers as well. Those will make up the bulk of the fleet, and so they're critical for icebreaking operations for the Canadian Coast Guard. Now, I'd love to know your thoughts on the overall icebreaker picture for Canada. In my opinion, the plan that's been set forward by the government and the national shipbuilding strategy at large is very robust. Almost all of the needs of the Canadian Coast Guard are being met by these programs. And the best thing is that a lot of these programs are in construction. And so fairly soon, Canada will have the most capable and modern icebreaking fleet in the world. Drop a comment in the comments section down below. Tell me what you think about the Icebreaker program. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.